You pull a pizza out of the oven and reach for the jar with the green lid, the one you have opened 1,000 times without reading. Dried leaves fall onto bubbling mozzarella, and the smell reaches you before you take a bite, warm and sharp. Your brain does not think oregano or basil, it thinks Italian. But here is something that might surprise you. In Italy, that jar does not exist. No family recipe called Italian seasoning, no grandmother passing down a ratio of 5 dried herbs. The smell you call Italian was built in an American factory from herbs grown on 3 continents, none of them Italy. This is how a $2 jar of leaves became the flavor of a country that never made it. That smell is not an accident, it is a system. The first thing that reaches your nose is oregano, specifically a compound inside it called carvacrol. A phenol making up 60 to 80% of oregano essential oil. It creates the warm, pungent wave you associate with pizza before you taste anything. Basil sits behind it. Its compound, linalool, is sweet and floral, softening carvacrol the way a bass line rounds out a lead guitar. Thyme adds thymol, a sharper note that bridges the two. Rosemary gives a woody finish, and marjoram keeps the blend from turning bitter. 5 herbs, 3 compounds. 1 leads, 4 support. The jar works because someone engineered the ratio, so oregano always hits first and the rest fall in behind it. In 1943, Allied troops landed in Sicily. For hundreds of thousands of American soldiers, southern Italy became the first place they ever tasted oregano. It grew wild on hillsides and showed up on street pizza in Naples, on grilled bread, in village soups. A flavor unlike anything in the mess kit. When they came home, they brought the craving. Between 1948 and 1956, oregano sales in the United States rose more than 5,000%. But the men remembered the flavor, and their families did not know how to rebuild it. Spice companies saw the gap. Early labels missed: pizza seasoning, spaghetti mix. Then someone put 2 words on a jar that changed everything. Italian seasoning, not a tradition, a feeling. Here is the thing nobody tells you. The herbs inside that jar come from everywhere except Italy. Turkish oregano, because southern Turkey produces the highest carvacrol concentration on Earth. Egyptian marjoram, Spanish rosemary, French thyme, Mediterranean basil. 5 herbs, 3 continents, none sourced from Italy at commercial scale. It starts in the field. Oregano must be cut just before the plant flowers, when oil concentration peaks. Harvesters move in the early morning, after dew dries but before midday, heat drives volatile compounds into the air. The window is 7 to 10 days. Cut too early, and the oils are weak. Cut too late, and the plant shifts energy into seeds, draining the leaves. 1 week in a Turkish field decides the jar on your shelf. After harvest, leaves dry at 35 to 45 degrees Celsius. Low and slow, because high heat kills the top notes first. Linalool breaks down before carvacrol does. Run the dryer too hot and the blend loses its sweetness, turning sharp, almost medicinal. Target moisture sits between 8 and 12%. Below 8, the leaves crumble to dust. Above 12, mold takes hold. The dried leaves hit a roller mill calibrated to a specific particle size. And here is what is counterintuitive. Grinding finer is worse. Fine powder ruptures cell walls and releases oils all at once. You open the jar, the smell hits, and weeks later the blend is gone. Coarse grinding keeps cell structure intact, trapping oils until heat or friction breaks them free. Your jar stays fragrant for months because the factory chose not to grind too fine. The 5 herbs meet in a ribbon mixer, a long chamber with helical blades that tumble leaves until distribution is uniform. Oregano takes the largest share as the carvacrol backbone, basil second, thyme third, rosemary and marjoram filling the lower register. Quality control samples each batch and tests oil percentages. Carvacrol below threshold means a flat batch. Linalool too high means perfume instead of savory. Every batch hits the same fingerprint, same smell, every jar, every year. Before the lid goes on, the headspace is flushed with nitrogen. Oxygen oxidizes carvacrol, degrades linalool, and slowly kills the blend. Nitrogen pushes oxygen out and locks the flavor in place, jumping shelf life from weeks to over a year. That faint hiss when you twist the cap off a sealed jar is nitrogen escaping. The wave of aroma that follows is every volatile compound trapped since the factory, released all at once. 5 herbs, 3 continents, 1 ratio, sealed in nitrogen, labeled Italian, blended in America. Here is where the story flips. That jar did not replace Italian tradition, but it did something quieter. It taught millions of American kitchens what Italian was supposed to smell like. For families who had never been to Naples, the jar became the reference. Open the lid and you were cooking Italian. Close it and you were not. Italian seasoning is not alone. Herbe de Provence, the blend Americans associate with the French countryside, never traditionally contained lavender. France's Label Rouge lists 4 herbs: savory, rosemary, oregano, thyme. Lavender was added by spice companies in the 1970s to match the scent tourists expected Provence to have. Same pattern. An American company designing a European flavor for American expectations. So why is the jar still here, 7 decades later? Not because it is authentic, because it works. Italian seasoning is shelf-stable, needs no refrigeration, and pairs with the 3 pillars of American weeknight cooking: tomato, cheese, and bread. It gives anyone a shortcut to a recognizable flavor in seconds. No training required, no knowledge of the difference between Amalfi and Tuscany. That is the real answer. Not geographic accuracy, but emotional consistency. A good label can turn a formula into a habit, and habits outlast traditions. Same 5 herbs, same ratio, same seal. The label still says Italian. The recipe inside still has no Italian ancestor. Next time you open a jar of Italian seasoning, hold it under your nose. That first wave, warm and sharp, is carvacrol. 1 molecule from Turkish oregano, dried at 40 degrees, sealed in nitrogen. What is hitting your nose is not a country. It is a compound, preserved to trigger the memory of a place most Americans have never cooked in. But the memory is real. It belongs to soldiers in southern Italy, 1943. Oregano on a Sicilian hillside. Street pizza in Naples. A flavor so new it rewired what a generation thought Italian food should taste like. They came home and could not find it. So a spice company built it for them, not from a grandmother's recipe, but from a blending formula and a quality lab. That is what the jar really is. Not tradition, but a longing. Sealed so anyone can twist a cap and smell a place they have never been. Same herbs, same layers, same feeling, every pizza night. Every time someone shakes dried leaves onto something hot and calls it Italian. The jar is not a lie. It is a translation. Somewhere tonight, someone will pull a pizza from the oven and reach for that jar. Oregano will hit cheese. That smell will rise. They will call it Italian. That is the process. We reveal how things actually work, one story at a time. If there is something you would like us to explore next, let us know. Until then, trust the process.